thank you for clearing that up. Because I wasn't gonna make it anyway.
Yeah, and I'll provide you an update as soon as the meeting's over.
You know my position pretty well, right?
Yeah, like I
Okay.
said, even if we got to the point where we were looking at, pulling out of that joint powers, the fact that Kanabec County wants to pull out, maybe there's an opportunity for at least discussion about partnering with Kanabec for one bed, versus totally getting out. So, that's in the back of my mind, but, I just think with that force majeure clause in that contract, they really need to come to their partners now and say, what are they gonna do for us? So all these counties that there obviously hasn't been a lot of kids being placed because the court system finally shut down. And if they don't change anything, then every county's gonna get a substantial bill at the end of this year, and that doesn't seem fair to me.
But we could have an uptick any month and fill the place right up with kids. You know that.
Yeah.
So it's just we always gamble when you're a member, but I don't know the answer to that. But let's just say an officer has no place for the court. We don't have any place to put us to. Then you're running around trying to find a place, right?
Well, that's always the counter argument, and I appreciate you keeping that in mind too, because, if it does get to a point where you spike and you don't have a bed because you're not a member, then you have deputies having to either go to Duluth or Bemidji, and that's not cost effective for anybody, and you're gonna have a upset sheriff.
Let's still figure out there. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And thanks for representing us on that. Strong representation.
Hey, folks.
Hi, Steve. Hey, David.
Yes.
We're having the District 1 meeting. I can't remember which county it was that said they cut $700 and some thousand for this year's budget. How could they ever do? They must have a big budget.
I don't know if you remember that county.
Yeah, I wrote it down. It was Cook, I think. How do you cut $700 out of this year?
You eliminate your capital project budget.
One small block long road would do that. Or, if you're going to build a new salt shed.
Steve, did you know that the Kagama Township thing was coming up on across the?
I did.
Okay.
With the county attorney, you mean?
Yeah.
That one? Yeah.
Yeah. I know they've been in front of us a lot talking about their blight issue. I just didn't know it had moved that far.
I think they have gotten tired of dog complaints and such. Hey, John. Josh.
How's it going, Steve? so I was dying. So,
Can you hear me?
Yep, we got you, Josh.
I didn't even have to call in today. Perfect.
Oh, wow.
yeah, I was just.
There's no delay.
Yeah, because I don't know, something must be all your handlers, but yeah, it was 78 in my office as well. I'm assuming Pete knows. He doesn't like when he gets bothered by 1,000 people, so. Someone's talking to me.
I was gonna say, you might want to mute.
Oh,
His microphone's awesome coming out of that boardroom.
this is your board mics that we're built to have.
Holy cats, that sucker's loud.
It's clear as a bell too.
They're really close to us, so we're not going to try to yell.
Hi, Terry.
I muted you. You do it again.
Oh, good morning. He mutes me when I'm not allowed to talk.
Yeah, there. He's practicing for your presentation.
Okay, so there we go. Just go back to WebEx for now.
Oh, so this is phone again.
Hey, Ryan, I got a technical question for you.
Go for it.
It's happened to me more than once. If I'm in a meeting and my iPhone rings, it covers the screen on my iPad that I'm using for the meeting, and it won't go away until you either shut your phone, answer the call, or something.
Yeah, so we just need to disconnect your iPhone to your iPad because it's got iMessage turned on, allowing you to answer on any device that you own. So we can just turn that off so it stops ringing on your iPad.
So I go to my phone and say, I'm in settings, control center.
I wonder if it's phone or messages. If you go to messages, it'll say iMessage, send and receive, and you can just turn that off.
I don't find messages. Messenger.
Can you do that sweeping up with the quick stuff at the bottom?
No, I think it takes up the whole screen just like it
No,
does
it
on the
take-
other phone.
It takes up the whole screen. I'm not finding messages. Where would that be?
It's under the kind of section that starts with passwords and accounts. And there should be one that's called messages.
Oh, there's messages. It's under the M's. They hit it. Send, read, receipts.
Yep, so just turn that dial off at the top and just turn it off completely.
Okay, we'll try that. We'll see what happens.
Do we have Commissioner Chafee yet?
No, I have not seen him.
Yeah, you got me.
Okay. Hi, Steve.
Yep. How you doing?
Good.
Hi, Steve Chafee.
How you doing, Matt?
Good.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
You
you get any calls or texts from Greg Beck?
Did I get any calls on what?
Did you get any calls from Greg?
I heard Greg, but I didn't hear the last.
Greg
name.
Beck. Did you get any calls from Greg Beck?
No, I did not.
Oh, okay, just curious.
I'm getting a number of calls from Al McKinney.
Who's he?
Guy that lives out north of Cloverton.
On land issues?
No. Somebody with geese just came on board. If you remember the Carrick School stuff, then you'd remember that guy's name.
Matt, let me know if you need any information. I've been pulling info like crazy for Mr. McKinney. I don't know what more I can provide him.
I know. He wants me to find him some roosters and some goats. And
Oh, I have a really mean rooster I can drop off. I've been trying to find him a home.
Hi, Becky. Hi, Mark. Reese.
Morning.
Okay, my iPhone says it's 10, so we will start with the meeting. And we are having this meeting electronically. The governor of the state of Minnesota has issued Executive Order 20-01 declaring a peacetime emergency and coordinating Minnesota's strategy to protect Minnesotans from COVID-19. On March 24th, 2020, the Pine County Board of Commissioners declared a local emergency for Pine County. Based on these conditions, the chair of the Pine County Board of Commissioners has determined that the requirements of Minnesota Statute 13D-021 Subdivision 1 have been met and is not practical or prudent for members of the county board to meet in person. Members of the county board will join the meeting remotely. The public is invited to join the meeting remotely by phone. And there's all the information, and click on the link to the county website and it'll direct you there. So we will call the meeting to order and we will say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks for the flag, Ryan. Public forum. Is there anybody on this call that wishes to say something in public forum? I am not hearing anyone, so we'll move on to adopting the agenda. Do we have any additions or corrections from anyone?
Mr. Chair, we have one correction to the minutes. The minutes that were in the packet related to the Pokegama Lake Association lawful gambling permit should delete the word pull tab from the minutes so that it does not reference pull tabs.
Thank you. With that, I look for a motion for adopting the agenda.
Ludwig will move it with corrections.
McRutt
Morrow
second.
I heard Mick Rutt first, so we'll go with that. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
District 4, Commissioner Mickert.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Chafee.
Aye.
That passes, and so we'll move on to the minutes of the May 19th, 2020 County Board meeting and summary for publication.
Moore will move that.
Chafee second.
We got Moore moving and Chafee second. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
District 3, Commissioner Chafee.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Mickert.
Yes. Okay. We will move on to the minutes of the board's reports and correspondence, the Pine County Land Survey monthly report for May of 2020.
Ludwig will move.
Mikrot second. Ludwig and Mikrot. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
District 3, Commissioner Chafee.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Mickert.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. You've had that in front of you. Any questions on that?
I did have one quick question.
Yes.
It says the tobacco license, it says formerly Murphy USA. Did that change hands? That's a gas station up by Walmart, I think, right?
Mr. Chair, this is
Yeah.
Kelly Schroeder, County Auditor Treasurer. So the actual property has not transferred from ownership at all. So I don't know if it's just a different management company or what the deal is. But tobacco licenses aren't transferable, so they requested a new one now that they're operating under this other name. Is what our understanding is.
Perfect. Thank you. I will move the consent agenda too.
Thank you.
Chafee second.
Chafee seconds. Moore makes the motion. Chafee seconds on the consent agenda. Any more questions, discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Yes.
District 3, Commissioner Chafee.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Mickert.
Yes.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes. That brings us to the regular agenda. We have a public hearing for ordinance 2020-31, ordinance regulating subsurface sewage treatment systems on behalf of Clover and Danforth Townships. And we will start out with a presentation by staff.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, this is Kelly Schroeder, County Auditor Treasurer. So before you today, you've got an ordinance which you've seen many times before. This time it's on behalf of Clover and Danforth Townships. And so what this does is previously they regulated their own septic systems, these townships did, and this will now bring them under the county ordinance. And so we've done this when the county we were required to update our ordinance in 2014. It created a lot of folks wanting to because of the administrative requirements and things like that, it created a lot of townships that no longer wanted to handle it. And then recently this year, one of the folks who had handled several townships retired, and so that's what's created a new wave of these folks coming under the county ordinance. Questions with that?
I have questions
Wave,
here.
Kelly, or are we midway?
So that's a good question. I think so currently, so there's 47 jurisdictions in Pine County. There's 6 townships that we don't currently do, and then 4 cities that we currently don't do. Of those 6 townships that we currently don't do, I don't know that there's any more of those that will be coming under us. I mean, there might be 1 or maybe 2, if that, but those are kind of gonna just stay how they are, I would anticipate.
Okay.
We're at
Other
the end of the wave.
Matt, did you have a question?
You asked that. I was wondering how many townships we had. I thought we had most of them, but I do have another question. So Clover is Pathfinder Village, and so I guess I don't have to signal out a township. But when we take all these townships on, it's gonna add pressure to your staff. And I know you're not prepared to answer that or whatever, but we need to start thinking about that. I think, I don't know, because Pathfinder is how many do you have there?
Well, there's 1,275 plots in Pathfinder Village. Not all of them have holding tanks. And unfortunately, kind of an unknown number have holding tanks because the previous inspector didn't necessarily have the best records. So it's a lot of unknowns and a lot of anxiety a little bit on our part. In all honesty, though, in 2014, if you think back, we had 2 septic inspectors with Ed and Robbie, and we did 15 jurisdictions. And currently, I have 1 septic inspector, and we now will be doing 37 jurisdictions. So yes, actually, Caleb and I have been working on a proposal for an additional staff person that I'm going to be bringing to personnel next week, actually.
Okay, thanks, Kelly.
Any other questions? Steve? Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just real quick, Kelly, you're going to bring a proposal to the personnel committee, understand that, and whatever you're asking for this individual, and I anticipate that we're going to have more work down the road with our zoning ordinance. Can this person fill in that capacity too, or are they just going to be doing the sewer inspections?
Right, no, so Caleb and I kind of have a bigger proposal than just to add 1 person. We're going to kind of reinvent one of the positions in the office to take on some of those other things. Another big thing that we were never involved really in before is the water planning. With these 1 watershed, 1 plans. I mean, we are busy with that stuff. And then, I mean, we're running 2 transfer stations we never were before, and doing the WACA stuff, and it's just a lot of different things. And so, yeah, I mean, we're asking our staff to be very versatile with different aspects. So it won't just be septics.
Okay, thanks, Kelly, and I'll just kind of see what you. No, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? If not, we'll open it up to any public that has any comments. I'm not hearing a lot of comments. I'm scrolling through my screen here. If we don't have any comments from the public, we'll close that public part of the hearing and we'll go back to the county board for any additional discussion. If anybody's got any questions, comments. If not, we'll move on to the consideration of adoption of the Pine County Ordinance 2020-31 on behalf of Clover and Danforth Townships, rescinding all prior ordinances and amendments to ordinances regulating subsurface sewage treatment systems within these townships.
Ludwig, move it.
Chafee, second.
Got a motion by Ludwig, seconded by Chafee. Any discussion? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
District 3, Commissioner Chafee.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Mickret.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Ludwig.
Aye.
District 1, Chair Holland.
Yes.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
All right, that passes, and you'll take care of all the necessary notifications, I assume, Kelly? We had a technology committee on the 26th of May, and we have people on the call that were in that. I don't know if, Josh, do you want to hit some highlights? We do have the minutes were in the packet.
Yeah, I guess a couple of the big things there's a lot of minutes here, so I won't read through them all, but we did discuss the COVID-19 response update. Kent did talk a lot about what was going on, some positives, a few negatives, but for the most part, them guys been working their butt off. I'll give kudos to them because we couldn't be doing this without that IT department, definitely, and to be prepared as they were, almost seamless within days or even probably hours. We had most of the county that could work remotely work, and I think that's a testament to how good that team works. So we did discuss some telework policy review. That once we get out of this COVID-19 stuff, that we're going to try to. It's been evolving. We've been coming up or finding new things that we have to maybe add or delete from the policy. We did have a presentation from Child Support Officer Selena Fox. She's been almost 100%, I think they said, working from home. And she said it's been really going good. The only one thing she kind of had is they had to use their, and Ryan said he's trying to work on that. When they use their cell phones to call, it gives a cell phone number. So it doesn't give the county number. It's a county cell phone, but it doesn't give it a generic number. So some people are hesitant to answer because they don't know who it is. So they're working on that. There's a piece of software or hardware, I can't remember exactly what, that they have to get that set up more like the desk phone. But she said a lot of times you'll call, leave a message, they'll call you right back once they find out who you are. So if they had that, it would help out a little bit. Jody Blessinger, child support supervisor, she gave a overview. She's been mostly working on at home, and she said it's been working pretty good. They've had very little problems. The biggest problem, obviously, we know is internet connection. I have it, and with all the usage right now, it's just been terrible at my house. My kids can't hardly do their schoolwork. And everybody knows what's going on. So the other thing we did talk about was squad body cameras. We talked about this last board meeting too, but the sheriff's department is working, IT is working on getting utility associates as preferred vendor, and the final contract will be presented to the county board in June. They're working on that right now. The jail camera project, they're working on some stuff with that, with Rod, to get that figured out and start working on that. We did talk about our next board meeting, about having the IT department's working on getting some cameras in place at the North Pine Government Center, I believe, if I remember right. We can start doing them in person, at least kind of halfway getting there. We'll see. And then IT additional position. We did discuss that a little bit, especially with this response. Them guys have been working around the clock, I think, for the most part. Anytime I've talked to Ryan, he's answered my call day, night, weekend, whenever. We did talk to him about an additional position. They are going to work on some stuff, and because going forward, we're thinking technology is even going to be, obviously, I think just naturally is going to be a bigger part of our lives, but this kind of threw us to the wolves as far as we're going to be doing it. We are doing it now and in the future here. So I don't know, Steve, if you want to add anything or anybody else from the technology committee. That was pretty quick.
You covered it well. I just would like to reiterate what Josh said, and everything we're doing, or the IT department is doing, is not. It was to deploy the troops, so to speak, and keep business moving. We have stuff that needs to be done every day. We have discovered in this last couple of months that there are a lot of positions that probably we do not have to bring back in-house. And although their work is still has to be done, it's very important work. Can we do that in a different way? And we probably would have got there anyway, eventually. This forced us to get there. And I think if we're smart, we will take this opportunity to continue down that path of those positions that it makes sense not to build a office building for them.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Ludwig, I agree exactly with your comments there. My only question is our data security. That's the only thing I worry about working remotely and to make sure that it's secure. And I'm just throwing the question out there. I know it's hard to answer.
And actually that question has been asked before, and maybe Ryan wants to, he could articulate but maybe better than I can on what they've been doing to ensure data practices are still being met, even though people are not physically in this building. Ryan?
Members of the board, we obviously, when we sent everyone home, security is one of the main things that it seemed like would be a big problem. So what we did was everyone's working off of our VPN, which provides encryption for our data. Everyone was sent home with a laptop, and that's secured via passwords, usernames. Everyone's supposed to follow data practices and data security, especially HHS. They get trained on that all the time. So kind of it was business as usual going home. We didn't sacrifice any security to do that. So once it came down to everyone going home, we just followed the policies and practices we already had in place. And with our going forward with our telework policy, those issues are addressed.
Thank you.
I think we're all, yes.
This is Dave Minke, County Administrator. Just one comment. If you look at Ryan and Terry, they are set up in the boardroom using the equipment that would be available for a future county board meeting for that blended in-person and remote experience. And so just as you go through the meeting today, you can get a sense for what people would see with that technology. And that is, it's fairly mobile. So our thought is when we go to that blended meeting, we would deploy that up in the North Pine Government Center since the room is a little bit larger.
Mentioned that at the beginning of the meeting, but of course I forgot. But anyway, any other questions on the IT committee report?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to say one other comment, and I think Ryan, maybe if you can answer this or maybe not, I don't know, but one thing I'd like to say, being on the technology committee, I don't think our technology is like, we're cutting edge technology like at Pine County, like we spend huge amounts of money to have the latest and greatest everything. I think it's just a testament to how well prepared our technology department is. I hear stories from other counties that are still battling and or can't get stuff, and I think everybody, I just wanted to throw it out there that, we're not like everybody that works for Pine County don't have every 2 weeks or every month when something's out of date is getting brand new stuff all the time. And that's not why our response has been so well. And we've been working through this. I just think it's a testament to how well our IT department has been preparing us, not for doomsday or COVID-19 or whatever you want to call it, but just so we work, and it works always. So thank you, Ryan, and thank you the whole IT department. It's been thank you. I guess that's all I want to say.
Agree, Josh. You said it well, and I think it even goes beyond the IT department. I think there's a tremendous amount of support from the leadership team that we have in place to listen to their workers and bring that stuff, their concerns forward, so we can get it fixed at the onset. And the attitude that our workers have had going into this has been marvelous, and that's a tribute to the leadership that has portrayed that themselves. You can choose to be good, or you can choose to be mad at something, and we have chosen to take the high road and just continue to do the job that we need to do. And it's been hard, been very hard for people. I keep thinking of because I've been in those offices where they have 3 giant screens that they're looking at all the time, because that's how complicated their daily work is. And you send them home with a 17-inch laptop. That's tough, but we're figuring out how we can get them the right equipment, and they're figuring out how they can work. And I think they're being very productive. So thank you. We will move on, unless somebody else has questions, to legislative update by Representative Nathan Nelson. And Representative, we appreciate you being on the call. We appreciate your willingness to be available to us at the county whenever possible. So we've called on you a lot and you've sat in on a lot of our meetings, so we appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, you're welcome, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
And thank you for the opportunity to be here today. And I just want to thank the county for just how flexible they have been in working through the COVID-19 and having remote meetings and everything. And some things remotely have gone very well, and other things there's been a bit of a learning curve with technology, and especially in the rural areas. We know that broadband is an issue, and that's something that we need to continue to work on. And our schools have identified more of the issues with, and they worked around it and were able to get this the students the work and whatnot that they needed. But that is something that whenever you have something like this happens, it definitely identifies weak areas. And I think both the state and the county and our towns have been working to address the issues that and how do we go forward in it. And I think we are going to see some. We talked briefly about maybe not having some office spaces that used to be there, and I think that maybe something that is very realistic. And at the same time, I know that not seeing some of my colleagues in the halls of St. Paul is a little bit of a challenge because you don't get that opportunity to visit back and forth between them and kind of bounce ideas off each other. So some of those, I mean, now it's a phone call, so it has to be a little bit more intentional instead of just running into them in the hall and or having lunch with them and visiting. So there are some challenges with remote work, but there's a lot of positive things too. So as far as the legislative update, there's a lot of things left undone, and something that bonding is a big issue. There's a couple big projects maybe they're not big in the grand scheme of things, but I think in our communities here, they're bigger projects that we'd like to see done and move forward on. And I'm hopeful that we can get a bonding bill together and pushed forward yet. But I think some of the, and again, working on broadband, I think that's something that Rock Creek, the lines run right through it. They don't have it, and that's unfortunate with too many of these areas. So, but yes, there is and then also we're working on some stuff with the Child Protective, the HHS, and that unfortunately just kind of got put to the wayside when the pandemic hit, and I'm hopeful that whether it's in the special session or next year that that can be picked back up and be worked on, because I think there's not sure how to put best. I think it's been an area that people haven't wanted to touch to a point. I think there's a lot of individuals that know that there's an issue that needs to be addressed, but it's been something that hasn't really been addressed adequately, and I'm hopeful that whether I don't know if there'll be anything done in the special session, assuming that's going to be called to order June 12th. That's kind of what we're hearing right now, but I'm hoping something moves forward on that. But if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions for a representative? I have a couple, Nathan, and one has to do with the waivers that have been put in place to allow us some of those to do our work during this time, and some of those waivers, in my estimation, just seem to be no-brainers that we should be able to continue with them. And right now, they are set to expire, if I understand it correctly, as soon as the peacetime emergency order goes away. And so I'm hoping in a special session, I know AMC, I'm on a committee working with them to put together, we kind of are lining them up in some tiers. It's like the real, seemingly to us, the real easy ones. And then there are some that may be a little more difficult, but Becky Foss could name off a list of about 45 probably that, I don't know if it's that many, Becky, but a lot of waivers that have made our life simpler, and they seem like they are not causing huge problems in the whole system. So it's like, well, why wouldn't we continue to do that? And so do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, we've had a little bit in the discussions I've had with some of my colleagues are really talked about some of this of what we did some of these because of the emergency we were in, and so the waivers that have happened, and the protocols that we have been following, they were waived just so the job could get done, and in response to that, we've seen that maybe some of these things that have been waived actually make a lot of sense to continue with that waiver. And I don't know that it would necessarily, what it's going to look like, but I'm hopeful that some of these things can really be taken a hard look at and say, what is crucial that we have going forward, and what are some things that we can let go. And I think there's been also some discussion along those same lines about considering the violence that has happened in the Twin Cities and partly across the nation too. What do we need to do to get rebuilt, to get infrastructure, have life, whether it's to get not going to be back to normal for them, but what can we do to help them rebuild? And so many of these things, there's so many hoops to jump through, and kind of looking at maybe we need to reduce some of these regulations. And in the case of these waivers you're talking about, Steve, moving some of them out of the way permanently. And I'm hoping that's something that can be looked at and moved forward on. And I'd be happy to talk to whether it's you or Becky or others on seeing what barriers to operation do we need to move forward on.
I don't know, Becky, if you're prepared to say anything or not today, but we just have had this discussion, and I know other county commissioners across the state are having the same discussion about things that we've found that don't seem to endanger people, but were put in place, some of them because we did not have things like cell phones and the capability of doing a video conference call or a Snapchat with somebody, that we had to see them in person, face to face. And now we can do some health checks and things like that using technology. And the workers now have found out that that's been a marvelous thing. They get a much better response from their people. And it just seems to make sense in 2020 and going forward. Becky or Sam, did you have anything you wanted to add to that, or questions for the representative?
Thank you, Commissioner Hallen. This is Becky Foss, Director of Pine County Health and Human Services. First of all, thank you, Representative Nelson, for taking the time out of your day to provide an update. And I just want to reiterate some of the things that you have said and Commissioner Hallen have said. Some of these regulations have been in place for a long time, and you just kind of get used to doing the work a certain way. And then when you have an emergency hit or a public health emergency and you're forced to do things differently, it can give you some time to pause and reflect and just ask some questions. Well, why did we do it that way? And if you don't have any really good answer as to why something has to be done face-to-face, like for some financial assistance programs, that's probably a good sign that maybe it's time to modify those requirements and allow for other type of contact. And I'm really, although I'm not excited that it's taken a pandemic to get us to where we are, I'm certainly ready to pivot and use this as an opportunity for some positive change in the health and human services systems.
Mr. Chair, Representative Nelson, this is David Menke. And if I can make just a couple of points. One, just to put in a plug for the bonding bill and for the Oberstar segment of the Munger Trail, which we know was in the House original bill. Thank you to your work, Representative. And then also in the governor's proposal. And it's a really small amount of money in the terms of bonding, but it's very important to us. So if there's anything we can do to help you, Representative, keep that project alive, that would be, just let us know and we'd be willing to do that. And then the other point I'd want to make is just to talk a little bit about financial stability, both long-term and short-term. We know the state and the nation have gone from an economic almost boom to a bust. We're on the verge of a recession likely with the downturn in the economy. And there is some CARES Act funding that has been made available by the federal government to the state government. And in the regular session, there was discussion about making some of that available to local governments, I think $667 million. The sooner that any of that can roll out to local government, the sooner we can be more responsive in helping to rebuild our communities. So I guess I would ask Representative if you can advocate for that. It's my understanding there was a Senate and a House version that just could not be reconciled during the regular session, but hopefully there's work going on now that would bring that to the special session and allow for that funding. So anyways, those would be my 2 points, and certainly I can answer any questions you might have.
All right, well, thank you, David. And yeah, and to that, the bonding, we'll continue to work forward on putting that forward. Like you said, it may not be a large grand scheme of thing. It may not be a large dollar amount for in the bonding bill. However, with the it is a big impact to our area, and so that is something that, and also the Pine Tech and their desired expansion, and the planning for it and the need for it really. But so those are kind of two of the big projects I would really like to see happen. And as far as the CARES Act funding, yeah, there was some legislation that just couldn't be reconciled between the House and the Senate, and I'm hopeful that in the special session that we can get that together, get the aid out to the local communities. I've heard from townships, I've heard from Pine, I've heard from Knabec that there's extra funding that needs to be there, and I'd really like to be able to get that out there, and that that it can go to the county and really allow the local control and the use of where those funds need to happen, with the guidelines in there of what needs to be done.
Thank you. Thank you a lot, Nathan, for being available to us. We really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome.
I hear no other questions here from the board or staff, so I think we'll move on to the 2020 probation comprehensive plan. Terry Fawcett, you ready to go, Terry?
Start again.
What?
Start again.
My co-pilot over here still had me muted. Sorry about that, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Happy to be here this morning. Did you want to hijack the meeting? Yeah, we have a hijacker of the meeting. Judge Wynn is here. I don't know why, but I would like to turn the floor over to her at the moment.
Sit down.
No, you don't have to.
Right.
We can hear you.
Good morning. This is Judge Wynn, and I am honored to be here this morning to present Terry Fawcett with the Al Rieker Probation Award. That is an award that is granted for exemplary service and dedication to the probation profession. Typically, it's an award that would be given at MACPO, the Association of Community Probation Agents, at their spring conference. But of course, because of the pandemic, that isn't happening. So I really appreciate Dave Winke and the board allowing MACPO and me to be part of presenting this award to Terry in a way that gives him some of the recognition that he deserves. Terry has dedicated his career to bettering the probation profession. When he came here to Pine County, he had big shoes to fill. He took over for a director who was long-serving and well-respected, both within Pine County and the probation profession. He brought his own unique style and personality to that position and really made sure that that was a successful transition. In his time here at Pine County, Terry has dedicated himself to building an office of bright, engaging, and ambitious agents. I think it reflects so well on Terry to see his agents out in our community working hard in creative ways to serve the people of Pine County better and in different ways each day. Terry is not afraid of some of the problems and challenges that he's addressed during his time here in Pine County, hits them head on to make sure that he's addressing those issues. Terry has been instrumental in building and establishing a trusting working relationship with the Mille Lacs Band in Pine County. As part of that relationship, he's made available for us qualified expert witness affidavits in child protection cases that for years we had been unable to have in those child protection cases. Even more importantly, his hard work led to the position of the cultural community coach in the probation office, which has made a huge impact on the kids and families that our probation office is serving. Terry also has dedicated himself to furthering juvenile justice and restorative justice in Pine County. He's been part of developing the Project Rise program, attended numerous trainings, and received awards from Georgetown University for his work in juvenile justice. In my experience, Terry is creative, hardworking. When you give him an idea, he says, why not? Instead of throwing barriers up for why we can't do things. And all of those things together have worked to increase the probation services and the quality of services that are provided to the people of Pine County, which in turn serves Pine County's interest in public safety. So I'm so honored today to be able to present Terry with this well-deserved Al Reeker Award. Congratulations, Terry.
Thank you.
I'd touch you, but that's against the rules.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would just like to say before you leave, I'm very humbled. Those of you that know me well probably don't think that's possible. But none of this happens without leadership from above, first off. The judges have been tremendous. Judge Wynn, your leadership with kids here has been second to none. The leadership from the board and the county administrator, allowing me to implement ideas or dreams. Partnerships with county and community staff, county attorney, and developing those restorative justice programs and relationships with HHS. You know, I've been other places, and the best of it all has been here. And then to have such a dedicated staff, as you mentioned, I accept this on their behalf. I don't do anything without them, and I just told them in a staff meeting on Friday, even with all the stuff going on in the world, I don't worry about work on a day-to-day basis getting done because of their professionalism. And so this is really for them. And so thank you. I'm deeply honored, and I'm hoping I don't have to give my presentation now. Just kidding.
We're not going to let you off the hook, Terry, but if Judge Wynn is still there, thank you very much for that presentation. It was marvelous. And Terry, from the entire board, I want to thank you for the work and that you've done with the judges and with everybody in your profession. We can't thank you enough. We're very proud of you, and thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, to the business at hand, I will start out by saying I'm not pleased with Mr. Menke or Ryan Findell because I obviously was set up for this. Nice job, but Ryan, at least you will pay. So, all right. The 2020 comp plan, just so you know, Mr. Chair, members of the board, hard copies have been delivered to admin. Those are the bound copies that you'll get. Anybody else on the call that wants a bound copy, just please email me. My email address is on the county website, and I'd be happy to send one out to you. So there's a lot of slides, but I'm gonna whip through. Some of them are just tables and such, but I want to show this one quick because this is our mission statement. There's just a couple different words added in here. So after 10th Judicial District, it says under the direction of, it now says and Pine County. So obviously with the judicial policy changing in July 1st, I am a county employee, we are county employees, and so that has been added to the mission statement. I won't go through all the highlights, just some that I will highlight in here, but very happy with the past restorative justice program that has started in partnership with FCI Sandstone. So hopefully we can get back to that soon. The Project Rise team had an opportunity to present at several statewide conferences as well as a national conference, New Orleans. I've been serving as the MACPO president. That'll go through the end of this month. And then the new fiscal year, there'll be a new president, and that's been very challenging this year, but it's been very rewarding as well. The Evening Reporting Center grant is funded. It's began. That staff is being very creative in how to continue to deliver those services during this time. And then earlier this year, agents certified and authorized to carry the X26P taser as trained by the Pine County Sheriff's Office. So I really appreciate that. We did have the capstone of the year ceremony that happened this year. And that was, again, a reflection of those I work with and Judge Wynn's leadership. And so, most people are probably tired of hearing about Project Rise, but it continues to be some of the best work that I've ever been a part of, and was very honored to be able to accept that award and talk about my partners at that dinner. Some other committee initiatives. We had the senior agent recently elected to the MACPO Executive Board. It'll be a 2-year term. That's good because now we have another voting member of that board for 2 years. So if any big ticket items come up, we'll have a voice there. And then the Project Rise team also presented to the Juvenile Justice Advisory Committee. They actually came to Pine County to meet with us. That's a governor's task force. And so that was kind of a big deal that they came here. And then we also had the opportunity to meet the Chief Justice. She came here, she's in the middle, and she wanted to hear more about Project Rise. So we were able to deliver that message personally to her. And the one thing she said was, how do we deliver this statewide? And so Reese and some others were going to give a statewide presentation at a juvenile justice conference in April, and that obviously has gotten canceled for now, but hopefully at some point that'll happen and we'll be able to deliver that message to a statewide audience. New offender entries this year. So these are the ones that just came on in 2019, 526. So went down a little bit from the previous year, but gross misdemeanor entries have more than doubled since 2015. Racial disparity. So in the 3% Native American population in Pine County, 14% of the adult caseload is Native and 25% of the juvenile caseload is Native. Those are, those are high. That being said, they're actually lower in both categories than they have been in previous years. And so that's just anecdotal on what that might mean at this point, but it's actually a good trend. So in this new offender entries, again, 526 in 2019. If you go by case type, 55 juvenile cases, 243 misdemeanor cases, and 227 gross misdemeanor cases in 2019. So misdemeanor cases are exactly the same. And so all the numbers really across the board are pretty consistent with previous years. Caseload demographics. So a snapshot, the state does a snapshot at the end of every year. So on 12/31 of 19, it showed that we had 1,197 offenders on probation. And then kind of our high numbers here continue to be the DWIs and the drugs. And so that hasn't really changed from previous years. Auto home placement numbers, again, I talked about this more extensively in my auto home placement report, but I think the good thing is average length of placement went down from 57 to 36 days. But those budget busters, again, they accounted for 77% of our placement dollars. So if you look at 2018 on this one, We had 42 placements, and that went up to 61 placements this year. Number of juveniles went up slightly from 26 to 32, but again, the average length of the placement went down from 57 to 36 days. So I think that's good. I think that's showing that, you know, if a kid doesn't need to be in placement, he or she is not there. Electronic monitoring is also something I'm very proud of, the amount of use that we do here in Pine County. It's a detention alternative that increased in 2019 from 22 youth to 34. It cost $13,600 to the county, but saved $231,000 in placement costs if you were to do an average cost for a placement per day. Since 2009, over $1.4 million in placement costs has been used by the use of EM for juveniles. So that will continue to be something that we use here in Pine County. And those are just those numbers there. Pretrial caseload, this is, if we had a hiccup anywhere in our system, this continues to be it. 462 bail evaluations were completed in 2019. That's equivalent to 693 hours or 33% of an agent's time. This is a 14% increase over last year. So that's just sitting down in the jail or now online and doing a bail study. Not one visit is included in that. You know, so, you know, if you went off our numbers from the DOC, it shows that, you know, we're still an agent down. But this is really where this becomes an issue. But, you know, and all those pretrial clients are also, you know, some are high risk and those include felony level offenders as well. But so that this is kind of our biggest challenge area right now in our caseloads. How are they doing? Any defendant that has been placed on conditional release, 48% of them were. Up there in the right corner, bail evaluations completed but not needed. So sometimes we do bail evaluations on more than what the statutory requirements are. Sometimes a judge wants one done on a person, and so that just takes up more time. Some outcomes for this pretrial population. Tested positive for drugs or alcohol, 20%. Those technical violations, a lot of those end up usually staying on trial. 21% arrested on new charges, 37% may have missed a court hearing, and 31% had a violation report filed. Some demographics. We had 14% Native American, 41% lived 11 to 40 miles away from the courthouse, 61% unemployed, and 41% problematic chemical use. So, you know, Pine County historically has had some disparate numbers in terms of Native Americans, even on the adult side, being in jails. And so that 11 to 40 miles from the courthouse at 41% sometimes speaks to that. It's not necessarily a judge on what they're ordering or what a probation officer is recommending. Sometimes they're not showing up for court, and that becomes the violation. Moving into the ISP program, intensive program. So this is kind of just a general overview. I'm going to kind of go ahead right here. Historically, 89% of those that have started this program have not committed a new DWI. So this is for our repeat DWI offenders. No current clients have been arrested for a new one. And on the bottom, we usually calculate cost savings to the jail when they complete the program. But in 2019, we didn't have any completions, so we didn't have any of that data to report. Cognitive skills. So COG skills is something that the agents run, really kind of look at offender thinking errors, trying to get them think differently. We just changed a new curriculum called Decision Points. So they do this is their completion rate. They also do a satisfaction survey afterward. Got over 70% complete in 2019. And then this slide or these table here talks about who completed. So the good thing is when you talk about a COG. So COG isn't just DWIs. This is whatever they might have been referred to COG for. So whatever they were exactly referred for, 100% completed successfully. There wasn't anybody didn't recidivate, but 7% committed a new offense of any kind while they are in COG or post-COG, post-completion. So that's still pretty good. Have a 93% success rate or a 7% recidivism rate. LEAD is our first-time DWI offender program. We're going to do our first one virtually here in a week. We started this in 2015. So far, we've had 240 adults and 5 youth complete the program. The good thing about LEAD, this is the first year we wanted to track reoffense data. And so in 2017, we had 3 people commit a new offense, and then in 2016, only 1. And so it's still pretty good numbers. And this is, what we're looking at here isn't any offense. This is just new type of drinking and driving behavior. I know the sheriff always mentions in here, who's going to be in this class today that is part of that statistic that might reoffend in the next year. And so the good thing is most of them that are coming through on a first-time DWI, at least in 1 year post-completion of LEAD, aren't reoffending. So driving with care is more for our repeaters, more of our second-time DWI offenders. So this is kind of similar with our COG data, but this is even better. These numbers are smaller, but nobody has committed a same or similar offense or have reoffended in any way out of that category. So what that should say is, if that continues to trend that way, then we should hopefully have less people that end up on that ISP program a year or 2 down the road. So the trend is in the right direction. The first group of driving with care started, we had 7, they all completed. 16 have completed so far. These are 3 12-week sessions. Department of Corrections clients participate as well. And we currently have 10 in the class, which is being held remotely as we speak. Local corrections fees. So probation collects fees on, several different things. This is just the graph, but this one here, in 2019, we collected over $61,000. So local corrections fees is basically, an easier way of saying it is basically paying to be on probation. But we also collect pretrial fees, DWI ISP fees, year analysis fees, COG skill fees, LEAD program fees, and then REAM fees, remote electronic alcohol monitoring fees. And so that number is important because, that really is paying for a position. And so the good thing is even in the era of COVID right now, our local corrections fees in terms of the probation fees are still above, the percentage of the year that we're in. So hopefully that'll continue to be that way. The agents do a great job of working with their clients to get these fees in. C5, our restorative justice program, our first one, our victim offender conferencing program. Maybe a few less numbers than I said before. These are very difficult to track. We try to track a bunch of different data here, but finishing up a case today, we had 66 completers so far. 10 were referred but did not start. Usually those are folks that before I met with them the first time they started the program, maybe they had a reoffense. There's just a bunch of different reasons, but the fact we only count it as data if they've actually attended one restorative justice meeting and not just an intake meeting. We've had 53 successful cases and 3 unsuccessful cases. 2016 to 2018, we've only had We had one recidivate 1 year post completion in 2016, 2 in 2018, and then one of our transition kids recidivated on a much lesser crime. Those 3 transition kids were our EJA kids from a few years ago. So very difficult population to work with, very high risk behaviors. This kind of talks about the different participants that have been in. I'll go to a better way of explaining this here. The Mille Lacs Band is also involved in this. So if we have a Native child, the cultural community coach will work with the kid as well. Average length of time has went up a little bit. It used to be 93 days on average to complete the program. It's now 101. 7.5% recidivism rate after 1 year post completion. That went down a little bit, but still pretty good. 74% are male, 40% minority, 45% person offenses, and 64% have been referred pre-charge. I'm proud of that number, and that speaks to the trust that the county attorney's office gives to this program. If a kid comes pre-charge and completes the program, they never see the inside of a courtroom, and we don't have collateral consequences of kids having records that may affect them later. So I'm appreciative again to the county attorney's office for that. C5 restitution now we started to track. So far over $4,300 has been ordered for these kids, and $2,300 has been paid, and 6 of the 10 kids that have had restitution ordered in C5 have paid in full. I actually have a check on my desk right now to send another one out. So this is working well. I kind of hound them. We've also had, for a few of the kids that have maybe limited money or no money, Sherry Johnson from my office has set up fundraisers through Chris's Foods, and we've had kids help work there, and we've done cookouts and bake sales and raise money for that restitution juvenile fund. So if a kid needs to pay off some restitution, we're able to take some money out of that and at least try to get some money to some of the victims. Moving on, cultural community coach. I won't go too much into this. I know Kevin Glass presented on this earlier, but as a judge said, this has been a partnership since 2018. Most of the time, this is from May to December. Most of the time we've had, the community coach has been in schools 20% of the time, doing a lot of court visits, home visits, transports 23% of the time. Cultural activities continue to go up. I just got an email this morning. Bill is actually working on building a cultural camp, and so that'll be a great opportunity for kids, court ordered or not, to be able to go to a cultural camp through the Mille Lacs Band. So Project Rise, our truancy initiative, we had 22 kids referred to this. The beauty of the way we do it here in Pine County is when we have a meeting, it's at the school, and it has social workers, probation officers, teachers, counselors, therapists, you name it, they're all around the table talking about a kid with the kid and the family versus a 5-minute hearing, and it enables us to kind of dig a little bit deeper on the needs for the child. And this next one is we're really proud of why we're different, examples of doing things different than our truancy court. And Judge Wynn given a youth option of giving up gaming system or staying off a cell phone in schools. The kid opted to give up their cell phone in the school, which was a big issue for them. Set up boxing for several youth in truancy court at Mashawquad. High school principal allowing a truant youth to participate in the spring sport if the youth attends school on a modified schedule. The judge offered to take self-defense classes with a truant youth who had some trauma in their background, and we've since ordered a couple more because the kid loved it so much. And, you know, what judge offers to take self-defense with a kid? I mean, that's the beauty of what goes on here in Pine County. The same judge, Judge Wynn, making cupcakes for a truant youth who showed progress. One who just recently graduated at ERC. The judge actually drove the baked goods to the kid's employer, went to Dairy Queen and dropped them off, as well as their certificate for completing the evening reporting center. The judge who likes to run, she said, the kid didn't like to do his workout Wednesday at Pine City. So she said, you don't miss any hearings before now and the next hearing, I'll do your workout Wednesday for you. Unfortunately, he missed a little bit of school and so she never had a run, but, another judge making a pact with a truant youth who was staying up all night, say no use of your phone for either the judge or the kid after 8:30, and write a letter to the other informing how each other did. And it was really kind of cute. They wrote each other letters, how they're doing. The kid fell on the sword right away, said, Judge, I failed. And she admitted she was failing too, had a hard time staying off her phone. I think that's supposed to say 8:30 PM, but just kind of the beauty of, again, what judges do here. We had an agent provide truant youth a bicycle in partnership with social services, so the kid be more active and get out of his house. And then again, ordering youth to participate in extracurricular or pro-social activity in lieu of community work, service, or detention hours. I'm not a big believer in just having a kid go do some work and, but now we've done that. We do it more through changing gates, but I'd rather have a kid have an opportunity to do something pro-social. And so expose them to pro-social activities, more extracurricular, and working with the principals and having a kid who maybe has always been interested in sports, but maybe their grades or otherwise is preventing them from doing that. Get some of those things ordered by the court, and then allow me to work with them a little more intensively in the community coach to have a kid be exposed to something maybe that they've never have been. So I know that slide was a little bit longer, but I think it really needed to be because, again, the gift that we have upstairs with the three judges is tremendous. Graduated response, this is a very important one to me. We use a graduated response grid, and an agent will score this, and then it'll help guide their decisions on what they should recommend in court. So the response to the child, kind of matches maybe the crime and the severity of the offense and the risk level and so forth. Some of the data on here, which I think speaks to the talent of the agents and the relationship and respect they have with the court. 100% of their recommendations this last year were in accordance with the response grid, and 96.3% of those recommendations were adopted by the court. So that tells you, again, they're utilizing the tool the way it was designed, and the court is adopting their recommendations because they know they're not just shooting from the hip. Risk assessment instrument, the RAY. So this is used by probation and the county attorney's office when the child appears in court for the first time, and it'll measure or not whether or not a child should go back to secure detention or not. As you can see, total samples last year of 15, and only 3 went back to detention. Again, I think that speaks volumes. It speaks to community alternatives, which we have a line item for. It speaks for electronic monitoring opportunities, and so forth. And so you guys might not always hear some of the things that your leadership enables us to do, but this would be one of them. Some of the overrides. So sometimes there might be a RAY override. Why might that be? Well, if a parent is really unable to control the child, or if a child is dangerous to themselves or non-compliant on GPS, they might get detained. Or if there's firearms involved, that may be detained. But in all override cases, the court orders that the juvenile could be moved to non-secure detention when a bed becomes available. So, being part of the joint powers agreement, this is where some of that maybe come into play, because having a bed down at the juvenile center allows Pine County to shift a kid to the non-secure side when a bed's available. So, and the agents see that is done, and having these open-ended orders are important. Evening Reporting Center, this is just kind of a synopsis of all the good things that have been done. This came out of the recent report that was done by the director and the grant manager. And so we'll have a lot more outcomes reported in next year's comp plan, but it is going well. And again, we just recently had our first graduate. Some last slides here, continuing the practice of best practices. Again, evidence-based practices is important. Shows that we're doing things according to the most available science and not, again, shooting from the hip. In 2019, we secured that grant. This year, we're able to implement a new COG for both adults and juveniles. And then we implemented our past restorative justice program in partnership with FCI Sandstone. So we're always looking to do a little bit more the next year than we're doing currently. And so we track that. Some opportunities and challenges. Well, before I get to that, the one thing I want to say about that decision points, this was recently brought up. Our COG coordinator, Sherry Johnson, and the agents were recently on a call with the authors, so the national authors of the decision points curriculum, and how we can deliver this curriculum virtually. And wouldn't you know it, the authors really hadn't given that much thought. So some of the comments that they said were Pine County are pioneers, and Little Pine County is a trendsetter for online decision points in the US. So again, Little Pine County is getting some national exposure. Why? Because we have some dedicated agents and a dedicated COG skills facilitator or a coordinator that's reaching out and saying, hey, how can we continue to deliver services here even though we can't have people on site? Oops. So lastly, opportunities and challenges. Again, having that graduated response grid finally implemented is very near and dear to me. We continue to look for ways to develop community assets to drive town out-of-home placement costs. The ERC will be a big part of that. We call that justice reinvestment. Continue to only look to place dangerous and sexually dangerous kids. As you well know, the state continues to fund at less than 50% reimbursement. We've worked very hard this year. Hopefully something will get done in special session. And then obviously COVID-19 has kind of thrown us all off track. But again, as I kind of said earlier, I'm part of a great complement of staff who continues to do their job very professionally. And COVID or no COVID, the work will get done here in Pine County. And so I'll open it up for questions if you have any. I know that's a little bit lengthy, but I appreciate your time. And again, I appreciate your leadership. Obviously during COVID, but pre-COVID as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. Presentation. So does anybody have questions, Terry? Comments? We're happy that you got the Stanley Cup there, Terry, so we expect you to do it.
Yeah, I don't think the top comes off.
Huh?
I don't think the top comes off, so I can't drink on it.
Darn it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll move on to the 2019 Highway Annual Report.
Okay, our annual report kind of lays out our expenditures and revenues and inventory and our equipment and all those types of things. Something that we've got to gather for the state and for state aid process. So we put this stuff together and try to give you guys some information. In the past, on our fund balance, we viewed things a little differently than the state auditors and tried to view them from our point of view as we oftentimes have expenditures 3, 4, 5 years out on projects, and we don't get those revenues until we let a contract. And so the state's never really viewed that as future revenue. And so we've made that adjustment this year to try to come in line with when the state does their, or whoever does their audit. So when Kelly does her presentation on our funds on that, we're hoping that will be a little bit more in line with her report. So maybe not be as confusing, and I guess after 20 years, I'm waving the white flag and declaring that the state is always right.
Come on, Mark.
We did, just in summary, we did end up with a fund balance of about 1.4 million, undesignated of about 550,000. I think, so we probably ended up about 400,000 when you look at the audit that Kelly had done last year. Our sales tax projects, we did about $950,000 in projects last year. Collected about 1.26 million, and we carried over close to 400,000 in that account. So we'll carry that into this year. It puts us in a good position. We won't have to delay any of those sales tax projects this year, next year. So as we look out, and we're not sure at this point what the impact will be, obviously with some changes, but I don't think it's going to be a devastating effect on the sales tax projects. We turn to page 1, has a summary of our contracts that we let, our expenditures. If you go down to county road system, you'll see we spend a little over 1.2 million on our county road system. We also spend close to 700,000 on fleet services, or fleet, actually acquisition of fleet. And so if you add those two numbers, you end up with pretty much the number that we get from our levy. So the levy dollars are really just going directly into our county road system and our equipment purchases. You can see we did order number 4. It looks like we didn't really buy anything, but a lot of our purchases got carried over into 2020. Some of that was with the squads and that. So we did spend money. It didn't show up in this report yet. So our assets page, you can see we're flush with cash right now. We got 2.8 million at the end of the year. The main reason for that is when we start a project, we get 95% of that money up front once we have a contract. And so this last year we had 2 big projects carry over from last year into this year. So we're hanging on to that cash, and as we pay the contractor, that cash number will come down. So that's kind of one of the things that I would note on that. The other thing is, if you go down to our allotments on page 2, it says -247. So what that means is we're advancing projects. Some counties, they'll have $4, $5, $6, $7 million in their allotment that they don't spend, and they just carry over from year to year because they're not doing projects. My philosophy's always been to get the projects out as soon as we can and get that benefit to the public. So that does impact the fund balance. I mean, if we had a big allotment in there, obviously our fund balance would be a lot higher. So that's the main driver on the fund balance. On the liabilities, page 3, you can see summary of the liabilities, and then our reserve. So all our inventory, if you add it all up, it's $441,000. We have the $388,000 in sales tax and a designated balance of $554,000. Total fund balance of close to $1.4 million. Our accounts receivable, you can see a list of all the entities that we deal with and those that still owe us some money. On page 5 is a listing of all the gas tax funds that goes to each township. So that's based 50% on the miles of road they have and 50% of the population in that township. So you can go through and see what your townships are getting from the state. It's a little over $500,000. That's basically a pass through. It comes in through the auditor's office, and they distribute those funds. And every year, the townships send me, we send out a map. And so if they have changes on their system, if they've added roads or gotten rid of roads, they update that so that we make sure that the mileage that is getting reported is accurate. So it's important that those townships keep up with that so that they're not missing out on any funds. On 6, you can see our inventory supplies. got, you know, for example, almost $150,000 on the hand of culverts and aprons and bands, 45,000 on signs and posts, you know, so various things. You can see that got a significant inventory of items on hand. Our accounts payable is a listing of all our entities that we still owe money to at the end of the year. About $100,000 in various items broken out into just different segments of our budget. We have an administration account, highway construction account, road maintenance account, and then our fleet account. So our personal services payable. So there's a listing of all at the end of the year, the payable, vacation, comp time, benefits, salaries, and then a listing of the contracts we have out there that we still owe funds on that we haven't finalized on. It takes a while, a lot of times, to get the contractors to provide us all the paperwork and things that we need to be able to find all the projects. So we've got a statement of revenues and expenditures. You can see on page 9, we receipted in a little over $10 million from various sources. Our state aid allotment annually was $8.8 million, and probably heard they're projecting about a 15% reduction next year. So I believe that's about $1.3 million. That's the bad news. The good news is it's kind of divided up between, you know, our maintenance and our construction side. And so on the maintenance side, it's about $500,000 that, you know, we'll have to account for some type of reductions. Kind of got some thoughts on that put together. The construction side, you know, so you got about $800,000. We'll have to figure out how we can, if we can front that money, or if we gotta make a change on next year's projects. But that's their projection at this point. We don't really know for sure if it's going to play out that way. So just kind of gives you an idea. Our budget, you know, is usually about $10 million. And last year we received in over 10 million. Good news is our expenditures was about 9.2. So we didn't spend more than we got. So that's always good. Page 11 has a summary of what we spend for maintenance on our system. An idea of different things that we spend on the CASA and the rural system and the municipal system. Our you look at the next page 12 there, for example. So blading the roads is costing us about $1,000 per mile per year. Snow and ice removal on average overall. You're looking at, so say on our CASA system, you're looking at $1,200. On a rural system or local system, $600. So overall, the CASA system, we're spending a little over $3,000 a mile, but just on, you know, the basic maintenance, it's about $2,000 a mile. And so when I talk to townships, you know, I figure about $2,000 a mile or $1,500 a mile. So when they look at their budgets, they ask me sometimes, you know, how much should they have in their road or bridge account? You know, so if you take, you know, a township that's got 30 miles, they should probably have a budget of, you know, $60,000 a year for their maintenance. So the rest of the report here, we got our fixed equipment assets. We got a listing of all our equipment here. About 10 pages of equipment. That includes everything that we own, sheriff's vehicles, fleet of all kinds. And then we've got our fixed assets, so right now we estimate our total building values of about $3.5 million. And so we're kind of behind on some of the counties. I know Carleton's building an $11 million maintenance facility, so we're on top of the other one they have. So we're about $8 million behind on the fixed assets that they have. So I guess we take pride in we built that Hinckley shop for about $200,000, and it provides for 2 tandem trucks and a blade. And so we feel like we really got good value for that. And if you get a chance, if you haven't been up to the Hinckley shop, go take a look at it sometime. And it's a very nice facility for really the guys did a really good job keeping the cost down for that. Our finally, we've got a summary of our construction costs. You can see each project and all the expenses specifically laid out on those. And last year was about $5 million that we actually paid on contracts. And then there's a map showing the projects that we let. So there's a few projects up north and a few projects down south, and that's always good to see. So quick summary of the report. So I don't know if you got questions on anything in our department. I try to answer those.
Anybody? Just a comment, Mark, and that is, we appreciate, you said something that we've known for a long time. And that's, we don't spend money we don't have. You're
once in a while.
Sometimes you get caught in a end of a project, but if you're able to manage those projects so that we're not spending money that we don't have, and we appreciate that. And I think probably as a county commissioner, the number one thing we get calls on are roads, and those calls are very minimal. So I appreciate it. So thank you.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Chair, too, I think the one thing I want to make sure is we look at our cash and our funds, that we're not in a nosedive. Last year we went down a little. This year we went back up, and so I think that's the important thing, is that we don't have a trend of going down, or I got to come and say we need more levy dollars to support the department. And so we keep an eye on that, but I think at this point we're holding our own on that. So.
Anybody else? No. Thank you. We'll move on to a coronavirus response update, and I believe we have Denise and Sam, and I see Kelly on the line. But Denise, are you there? Matt,
actually, Denise had stepped out, so okay. I can give a quick update on what she left with me.
Okay.
So basically, okay, sorry. So where she's at is a lot of the FEMA reimbursement stuff, working through that and trying to make sure the entities that are affected are getting their paperwork in, and working with FEMA on how to document that, and also Kelly on how to get that sent in so we can hopefully get some reimbursement back. And then the personal protective equipment keeps coming in. We're pretty well stocked on that. She's got another shipment for to distribute to the fire side of the world. And other than that, it's kind of the status quo.
Thank you. Sam?
In public health, we're kind of trucking along like we have been. No crazy changes. Right now, we've got 89 cases in Pine County. They've kind of stopped tracking release from isolation, so I don't have a good number for that. But we still haven't had any additional hospitalizations, no deaths, so that's all really positive. The testing is still occurring at Essentia, and that's going well. And we're currently working with our long-term care facilities to make sure that they're connected with all the resources they would need, whether it's PPE or who can they connect with if they need testing. So we're kind of coordinating, facilitating that. So that's going well. And we did also take over the case investigation contact tracing responsibility for Pine County. We don't do the prison or the jails because that's an outbreak that they generally take on at the state. But anybody who's not at the jail or the prison, we would work with, or long-term care facilities. So we're kind of working with them, it's complicated, doesn't matter. But it is going well. The people that we've talked to, connected with, people are very nice when they answer the phone where we work with them. Going well.
Thank you.
Yep. And so just bigger picture, Minnesota is it's trending trajectory that we were expecting. We're still looking at plateauing sometime probably in early July. Of course, there's a lot of, it'll be really interesting to see the data in about 2 weeks and what that looks like. Right now, the data is kind of showing some really good positive, like in terms of doubling time is actually quite slow right now. It's doubling in about 20 days. And our positivity rate is low, which is good in terms of number of positive tests out of all the tests we do. But community spread is higher than we'd like, and hospital admissions are really where we're kind of concerned. So it'll be interesting to see where we go from here. I don't know where that goes, where we're going to go.
Well, we'll find out. Thank you. Kelly, I think you got some info for us probably.
Sure. So we opened to the public yesterday. Ooh, I'm getting a lot of feedback. I'm not sure. So we opened to the public yesterday at the courthouse. So auditor, treasurer, zoning, recorder, assessor were open. The morning was very quiet, which was kind of nice. It was surprising. I thought that there was going to be a mad rush. The afternoon got a bit busier, but overall it went well. People are very respectful. A lot of people are wearing masks. You know, we had a few folks that we had to tell, you know, I need you to step back, or if you could stand there. We did find that some folks did kind of congregate in the lobby a little bit, which was something that Dave had kind of thought maybe would happen. As they were waiting for whoever to leave the counter they wanted to go to, they were hanging out in the lobby, but they were doing a good job at social distancing in the lobby, so we felt okay about it. And one thing that we ran into, we had an elderly person that came in who needed to sit down, and there were no chairs, so that was a little interesting. So that's something maybe we'll have to think about. Do we want, you know, we don't want to have those chairs for people to hang out, but yet we do have elderly people that come in that it's all they can do to get in the door. And so, you know, that's something we can think about what we want to do moving forward. Today, there's still no chairs out there though. Any questions on that opening stuff?
I do, Kelly. What were the people that were coming? Were they coming to you know, record something, or why were they there?
So we had it was a mixed bag. So we had quite a few people come in to pay property taxes, and they were coming in just because they were late and they wanted to know how much their penalty was. And then we had one marriage certificate, so that wasn't so bad. We had a couple people come for zoning. You know, some of those things are just complex and they wanted to talk through them ahead of time. Had some birth certificates, but not nearly. Like, I really thought there'd be 30 people in line for birth certificates, considering how many phone calls we got of people wanting birth certificates. But there was just a handful of birth certificate folks. So overall it was a mixed bag, but it was okay. And so far today still it's pretty quiet.
I talk into a muted mic every once in a while. So anyway, thank you, Kelly. Anybody got any questions? Anybody got anything else to add? David, do you have anything to add?
I don't have any update to add. Just curious what thoughts are as far as next steps with regard to board meetings and the thinking on phasing in-person meetings or holding off on that until a future time.
Well, board members, for my part, it's gone well. I don't know. Doing what we're doing. I know, we can't do, probably if the whole world opens up, we'll come back to a meeting, but, we do have, people that fit into that category of, being more vulnerable. And just based on my age, I kind of slide into that category. So, I would tend to believe we could continue meeting in this fashion, and if we have some need to have some people be at a building, we would probably be able to accommodate that based on what I've seen today. I think our new equipment, it's going to work really well. So,
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Ms. Ludwig. I would like to go to when we have a board meeting, if they're gonna set it up. I will certainly go and be present, so if members of the public do want to come, or, in that way, I will certainly sit there and all social distance.
I think the other thing we'll have to recognize is that we have a limited amount of space wherever we meet. So we are never going to have the room jam-packed shoulder to shoulder with people until this whole thing is done. And I don't know if that's 3 months from now or 3 years from now. I don't know. But I think we can figure out how to handle that of allowing, the public these are public meetings, and we certainly want to make sure the public has the opportunity to be involved. And I think we'll continue to figure that out. Coming up on, what's the date of our public where they come and complain about their
15th?
The Board of Equalization is June 15th.
June 15th. So what's our thoughts on how we're going to run that meeting? Are we going to do it?
Do you have a sense of how many people have signed up for that?
So we currently have 3 people signed up.
So is that something we would feel comfortable doing on a limited, people could, if we had 1 or 2 people at the meeting place, and allow the public that have signed up to come in 1 at a time? Is that something we think we could do? Or how do we think we want to do that?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I think, well, I'm just going from the past experience. They get assigned a time slot.
Right.
What they do, they don't really keep them. They all show up there and just wait for their time slot. So that's going to be how we communicate. If we're worried about too many people, is it something we can manage with stay specific to your time slot when we talk to them, or just an idea?
And what about the board?
Yeah, I'm
expecting that 0 board members or 2 board members or 1 board member will be on site and the rest will be remote.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question of Kelly first? Kelly, of those people who have signed up, has there been any conversation, or have they had a preference of remote or in person as to how they would want to attend the meeting?
We have not had that conversation with them. Knowing 2 of them rather well, they would want to be in person. And then the 3rd, I'm not sure.
Because as we showed today, with Terry being our volunteer, to test out this equipment, you can do a presentation very effectively in the room without a board member there, right? So if people had the option to do it from their home computer, or if they weren't sure that they had the right equipment or the bandwidth, we could certainly make the county building available for them to come and do their presentation. So I guess I'm saying it's a two-part question, whether you could have the public in person so that they wouldn't be left out because they might not have the technology. And then a second part of that question is, do you want board members, and if so, who in the room?
I don't know. We're going to have to decide this fairly soon, but I don't know that it has to be decided today. I think my preference would be that the public would come to a building, and we can manage how many people can get into the room at one time. That's fairly easy. I don't think it's wise that all of us be there. I don't think we're needed. I think based on what I've seen and what we've been doing, we could really manage this meeting, and they could feel that their voice has been heard if we're sitting at our house or wherever. So is that okay, folks, if we do it that way?
I don't have a problem with it either way. If you want somebody to show up and you need me to get there or whatever, it's not a big deal. Or I like what you were saying as far as having the public come to the board, room and present, because that did work pretty good.
Kelly, would you or Lori or somebody plan on being there?
Yes, I would think so.
Okay. I think it's more important that we make sure that we have some staff members there, that the equipment is all working well. And I feel very comfortable to have what I saw today and what I've seen in the past has worked extremely well. Seeing and hearing what anybody has had to say. So,
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Chafee.
Yep.
I don't know, are we talking about doing it in Pine City or in Sandstone? If we do it on a limited basis, we'll probably use the courthouse in Pine, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Chafee, I would just say that our room in Sandstone is larger, and it has two doors, so we could have an indoor and an outdoor. And so we could manage people in and out of the room and maintain distancing better in Sandstone.
And I tend to agree with you, David. And if we can manage this, so maybe if a couple of, I don't feel real comfortable yet. And going forward, even with our board meetings, I think Sam brought up a good point. What's it going to look like 2 or 3 weeks from now? With all the rioting and all the congregating that's been going on. So personally, I don't feel real comfortable, with some of the things that are going on with me and in my, situation to be in that situation. So I'll just put that out there. So, but if we can have a couple of commissioners, I'm okay with that.
Thank you, Steve. Should we plan on, is it okay if staff, I know it's always in the past, there are so many people that just show up and they really don't need to go to our meeting, they need to talk to staff. And it's been very, very not helpful to be able to just point them down the hall, and some staff were there to chat with them. And I don't know if we plan on doing that again, or if we do that, are we going to have staff in Sandstone sitting in a conference room or whatever, or in the side of the hall or someplace where they can have that discussion.
And that happens, Steve, a lot more at the Truth and
Yeah.
Taxation meeting than this
Yes.
one.
Yep.
So I guess I'm not overly concerned about that.
Okay, well then, let's do this. Let's plan on having, one or two board members, and we can decide that via an email poll, in the next week or so in the government center, the North Pine Government Center. And we'll have the equipment there. Is that all right, Ryan?
That is the plan.
Okay,
And Mr. Chair,
yeah,
I would just say that since Chapter 13D021 does not allow us to do polls outside of county board meetings, that perhaps you could determine who the one or two commissioners in the room are.
yes. Yeah. I will assign somebody to be there.
And then we'll have a limited staff presence there just to make sure the equipment works and that the assessor is available to sort of run the review of the properties as usual.
Thank you.
And
Yes,
so the next day, that Tuesday, would be our next regular board meeting. Would our plan be to replicate that sort of a scenario?
I would say yes. I would say yes. And I don't know if Jeff is still on, if he has somebody available to help us the first time go around to monitor how many people we have going into the building or not. But I don't think that's going to be an issue. David can work on that.
Yep, and my understanding from the conversation is there will be not more than two commissioners in the room. We'll maintain the full WebEx meeting and the live stream on YouTube, and citizens can participate remotely, or if they do want to come in person, they could come in person, and we would not exceed the 10-person limit, assuming that's still in effect, and we'd ensure the appropriate distancing in the room.
You captured it well. So I think we can move on to commissioner updates unless somebody else has something. The AMC Blue Ribbon Committee continues to meet twice a week. It's been an interesting few weeks because I've been involved with that, and we've heard reports from every almost imaginable department that works in a county in some fashion, and very proud of Ryan, who was part of a panel that spoke to us a week or so ago on the IT things that are going on. So we mostly have been gathering information at this point. We are in the process of putting together a paper that would go forward to the legislators and the governor's office and DHS and everybody, because most of these waivers center around DHS, to be truthful about it. And that is a big concern from most of the county commissioners. Is we've learned all these lessons. We've done all these things. We've made all these things work. Let's not just throw the good that's happened out of this in the trash and go back to the way it was if we don't have to. So I have big expectations that some of these are just such no-brainers that it would be an easy lift for anybody to say, yes, we can do that. I was very disappointed that the legislative session ended and they didn't at least extend for 60 days the waivers after you know, because the way it's written right now, most of these waivers go away once the emergency order ends. And we were hoping to at least get a 60-day extension to give everybody time to maybe get some of them through a special session, or maybe transition back to the old way if we had to. But we're working on that. It's been there's some very good people on and AMC staff that are working on this. So Arrowhead Counties Association. Anybody get to that?
Yeah, I made that. Little late, but I got through. When it finally got through to their main discussion, of course, was this COVID-19. Everybody there was a little concerned that the state had such a surplus of money here this spring. Now we're in such a deficit that they're next year down at the Capitol. I guess time will tell there. Just at the round table, a few things there. Over Cook County, they lost 3 businesses that burnt down and they're completely gone. They don't know what happened there, but they're really disappointed there. They're also kind of promoting, no, I shouldn't say promoting, but they're limited travel up there yet. They don't have the facilities at all for hospitals or anything. If the people get sick, their nearest one would be 2.5 hours away to Duluth. So they're just hoping people stay home if they're sick and keep safe. Everybody up there. Up there in Coochin County, old Commissioner Adie, he's still looking for money to get that bridge over the railroad. He's not giving up on that one yet. And like Mark said, Carlton County is in the process of putting up a $1 million shop in Arnhem for them. The boys there. A lot of the equipment's been sitting outside, but the new shop should accommodate it. That doors will be big enough to close in and get them all in there. That was about it. We're off now until September. Will be the next meeting.
Minnesota Rural Counties, I've been involved with that. They seem to be the most focused on reopening the state, and that's been their big focus. And so that's about all I got to say on it. I don't know if they'll get any way except work themselves into a lather about it. But anyway, that's what they're working on. I see NLX was canceled. Is that correct, Matt?
Yes.
AMC District 1, Matt and I. Who else made it? David? Anyway, we had a good meeting, and I think we're all getting very accustomed to this video conferencing thing, and certainly meetings like that where it's always at least a 2-hour drive. It seems like it's appreciated by me. It is. I will not try to kid you. I miss the time to sit down and have coffee and lunch with our colleagues and have a chance to ask them one-on-one when you see them about what they're doing with a particular issue or hear what's going on in their county. So I do miss that part of it. But as far as just plain getting business done, I think we're doing fine. AMC kind of helped get the meeting set up by asking commissioners to have a statement prepared about some good things that happened and not so good things, and keep your comments kind of laser focused, and that was interesting. I think for the most part, everybody is doing quite well in Northeast Minnesota as far as providing services that are needed to people. And so I think we're doing as well as anybody. And so thanks again to the staff. Anybody got anything else to add from that meeting?
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I just want to let the rest of the group know that it was pretty much a common theme with all the counties there, that everybody realized that a certain group of people could work from home. And they all reported that as like, if you would have asked the same counties 3 years ago or 2 years ago, they'd say, no way, that's just going to be an impossible task. And along comes COVID and everybody did it. And they go like, this is like, we're hearing the same thing in our meetings today, but it was a common theme through all of them. I thought that was interesting. And then I don't know. I don't know, maybe Dave could probably handle this better, but I think it was Matt maybe that went into, there was a 1.4 or 1.5 surplus prior to the COVID hitting, and then they said there was a 3 point something loss in revenue. There's the numbers, but then if you put them together, and they had a $2.4 billion rainy day fund, so those numbers are still, but it's going to end up a little short no matter what.
Yeah, I think you're right. On a local level, if I read what Kelly sent out correctly, we got the cuckoo clock going off here. Must be time to quit. But anyway, it looks like our sales tax collections, if I'm reading those numbers right, are not going in negative numbers from previous years. They're still going up. They're not going up as fast as they used to, but they're still going up. Was I reading that right, Kelly?
That is correct. The only thing is that you didn't have like the April number yet, which I feel like maybe that will really show.
Yeah.
So we'll see when we get that April number here about mid-June. I'll get that out to you guys.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that'll kind of be the storyteller.
I think a lot of people are at home doing projects and they had to go to the hardware stores.
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
before we adjourn, just one comment on liquor licenses and due to all of the bars and restaurants that serve alcohol needing to close, we have an option to consider of possibly reducing their upcoming liquor license fee kind of on a pro rata basis to account for those closed months. Is that something that we would want to have a committee take a look at?
I had thought about that, and maybe I think we need a finance committee meeting in the near future, and maybe that would be the place that it could come out of, because it kind of the licenses come out of the same office. So Kelly,
Yes, we could.
Could you set up a meeting with the finance committee?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And if we're gonna do something, we'll want to work quickly because those renewals go out the end of June.
Okay. So sometime in the next 10 days or so. David, is that all right?
Yep, that sounds good. And that would be, I believe, you, Steve, and Matt on that Finance and Investment Committee.
Correct. So if the other commissioners have any thoughts on that, let David know or Kelly know, and so we have something to go off of. Any other business? If not, we'll declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.